Hi, boys and girls. So today we're going to do a little review on how to tell time on the analog clock and put the time on the digital clock. So remember, our analog clock is the clock that looks like this. So first thing is we need to know the difference between our hour hand and our minute hand. So remember how we show which one's the hour? Which one is hour? Our little hand. So on this clock, it's our red hand. So remember, hour. Little is our little hand. That's the first number it tells us, the hour. And our minute, how do we say our minute? Minute, a longer word. Well, here's my cap. So it's a longer word and a longer hand. So the long hand on this clock, it's the blue hand, tells us the minute. What do we count around our clock for the minute? We count by fives. Unless our minute hand is between our numbers, then we switch to counting by ones. So for your lesson today, you're just going to be counting by fives and doing half past and o'clock, a little bit easier stuff. So let's practice our counting by fives. So let me set a time on our clock. All right, so take a look at this time I put on the clock. So the first thing we're gonna look is for our hour hand. Remember, hour is hour, our little hand. So we can see our little hand is pointing between the 2 and the 3. And that's because our minute hand has gone about halfway around the clock. So our hour hand is about halfway between two numbers. Which one do we look at to tell us the number? Remember, when it's between, you always look back because it hasn't made it to the 3 yet. Not yet. So it can't be 3 o'clock or 3 something. It hasn't made it there yet. So we need to look back. We know our hour is 2. Now we need to find our minute. So on this clock, the minute's already written in, but we're going to count by fives because not all the clocks are like that. So when we start with our 1, and we're going to count by fives until we get to that long minute hand. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, stop. So our minute is 35. Our hour we decided is 2. That means the time is 2:35. Let's do one more on this clock. All right, take a look at this time. If you want to pause the video and see if you can figure out the time before we do it together. All right, start with the hour hand, and the hour hand looks like this, hour. So our hour hand, it's a little bit past the 11, not yet on the 12. So we know that the hour is 11 still. It hasn't made it to the 12 yet. So our hour is 11. Now we're going to count by fives until we get to our minute hand to find the minute. 5, 10, 15, 20, stop. So our minute is 20. So we know our time is 11:20. All right, let's take a look at your activities in your math assignment. So some of your activities look like this with the clock on it here. Some of them look like this. So let's practice some of these ones. So for the first example, I went ahead and I put all the minutes around the clock for you. But for the other one, you have to count by fives yourself. So make sure you're paying attention. Let's look at this time. So we can see right here on the digital clock that it's 6:45. Now I want to show that on the analog clock. I already made your hour and minute hand for you, and they're already facing the way they need to face for that number. Remember, if you accidentally do something with the hand, or you stretch something out, or it starts facing the wrong way, or you turn it, you can always hit this undo button in the top left where it says undo, the arrow going back, and it will change it back to how it was. So our time is 6:45. Let's start with the hour hand. So our hour, our little hand needs to point to the 6. So I'm going to take that red and I'm going to just put it right down pointing to the 6. And our minute is 45. So I'm going to count by fives around the clock until I get to 45, and that tells me where my arrow needs to point. So starting with the 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, stop. So that tells me that my minute hand needs to point to the 9. So it's okay if they don't touch. I know they're a little different sizes, but we showed on our clock 6:45. Let's do one more. So this one doesn't have the minutes around the outside, so make sure you're paying attention when you're counting. This time, the time on our digital clock is 4:55. So we'll start with our hour. So my hour hand needs to point to the 4. I'm going to take the red, the little hand, and make sure it points to the 4. And now my minute hand, we need to count by fives until we get to 55. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, stop. So I'm going to take my minute hand. I know it needs to point to the 11. Right there. So I showed on my analog clock 4:55. And for your other times, these are the ones that should be a little bit more easy. They're just o'clocks, so our 00s, and our half past, our 30s. So you're going to look at this clock. Remember, our hand comes first, so our little hand, hour. The smaller hand is between the 12 and the 1, which means we look back. So we know it's going to be one of these that start with a 12. We know our hour is 12. And our longer hand, minute, our long hand is pointing to the 6. And we know that 6 is our half past or our 30, or if you forgot, you can go around and count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, stop. So our hour is 12. Our minute is 30, which means the time is 12:30 on the clock. So you're going to go through and answer all of those ones, the half past and the o'clocks. Our hour hand and minute hand aren't different colors on these ones. So you really need to pay attention that you start with the hour hand, the littler hand, hour, and then you do the long hand, the minute hand, minute. And if you need help, don't forget I'll be on Zoom and we can work on it together. All right, bye.